Morning. I think we're in for a day trading kind of a market here, which every day is a day trading market, but I think we're in for some more indecision. Yesterday, after the gap, was pretty much a big yawn throughout the day as things went nowhere at resistance, but they didn't go down. So I suppose that's a positive. I was looking at starting off with bonds here today. Um, yesterday they dipped down and, we've had this pretty close inverse relationship right now between, the bond market and the stock market because of yields and the whole talk of the inverted yield curve and slowing economy and so on. So with bonds up here this morning, the markets have turned just very slightly negative. They're within a range here. They haven't really done anything to suggest to get short yet, but we could have some day trading shorts and things. You can see it bouncing back and forth here between unchanged and positive, negative. But bonds here on the 60-minute, we've got a 180 bullish reversal here coming out of a downside shakeout. You can see the move to the downside and the sideways consolidation at resistance, and then the pop up, the attempt to go down and the move right back up again, which suggests buyers are now interested again, even after this really shallow little pullback here. And if this starts to perk up, well, I suspect that bond stocks will come down a bit, or the futures will come down a little bit. And of course, then we'll see, which stocks do. This is kind of a mixed picture, I suppose. Looking at just eyeballing this red and green here. So we'll see how it all shapes up throughout the day. But initially, this is suggesting to me that the markets should come in a bit. So we'll see. The futures, the big thing yesterday, you don't see it here. Let's go look at the spider so you can see the gap. Pretty sizable gap up right into resistance. And as we covered, yesterday, it was like, well, if it can get above last week's high, well, it should just keep going higher into the void. Well, it didn't do that. It just hung there all day. And to get a better perspective, looking at, say, the 5-minute, what's going on there, and it was just kind of just dead, So you just have to go with and just wait. So now, same story. Only one day into the week, gap up toward the high of last week, and the neutral action the prior week with the open and close in the same place, pretty much. Positive start. Now we just see if buyers can hold on to it up here. And I suspect if they can hold on to this today without any kind of a deep retracement, or if it does retrace and it ends up with a bottoming tail bar, I think then it goes higher. Now on the 60-minute, you can see the attempt to go higher failed. So we've got a topping tail and a potential double top or M top here, suggesting maybe lower. And, if it gets down below that area, it just opens up the door to the void, which is the unfilled gap. So below yesterday's low, there's really nothing to stop it from going down to fill the gap. So that's one thought to see. But as long as it's trading within yesterday's range, we've got a go nowhere day. So our initial lines in the sand are yesterday's high and low to see whether it can take out the low or not, or go back up. But I think a couple of days of chopping around here could open the door to going higher. I mean, that's what it would suggest. The NQs, same story. The futures here, you can see the cleaner chart of potentially, would be an M top here. And you can see that the attempt to move up the tail there. So maybe a little bit more aggressive, or just, a little less confirmation than you might like would be a short here with a stop above these highs. Calculated risk kind of makes the entry a little less significant. I mean, a break below here would definitely mean it would go lower, but where you're going to put your stop at that point? You still got to go up here unless there's some kind of consolidation on a 5-minute chart between here and here, that would suggest above that you're going back up. But right now, we've just got this trading range that's going on. Did I miss the cues? The ETF. But again, same story. You know, everything's been moving up the last couple of weeks, kind of in similar patterns, very closely to each other. So we got the big void below yesterday's low. Look for it to go lower, and we'll see how far it goes. Because in between here is nothing. So, well, we got this intraday data, but the way it went up is essentially nothing there since it was a momentum move. It just opens up the door for today anyway. Potentially a greater size move would be to the downside than to the upside. And I can't imagine what could get things going to the upside here unless some news comes out. You know, Fed coming in with a surprise type of scenario, but who knows? I didn't get the memo on that. Transports, you know, just kind of went up with everything else yesterday, topping tail. So relative weakness has the gap below. So nothing changed there. Trend is down. It did come down to some support. So, and in the middle of, you know, just seeing which way things will go. We're in data collection mode here, looking for more information as to whether this move that started has got more to go to the downside or whether there's going to be some miracle recovery again. So going to be a little bit more difficult of a market. It is August, you know, high vacation time and summer doldrums and all of that. So just keep that in mind, not to get too aggressive. Russell, same story as the transports. They kind of move together pretty closely. And same story. You can see the tail there. We'll take a look at the futures, but got that support, got resistance above. It's been going sideways the majority of the year with a lot of back and forth attempts to go up and down. And so now it went down, that support, which way is it going to go? You know, the longer it chops around here without any headway, the more it suggests lower. But that's the line in the sand. The downside, this is starting to perk a little bit lower. And let's take a look here. Everything's turning negative. It's getting worse. So I think it's worth the shot to just short it here with a stop above yesterday's high and see where it goes. It's day trading, and we should already be in it. And when it gets down there, I guess then we'll see what the reaction is. But that's always the case with looking at a short, where support's going to be when you come down to it. You don't know what the reaction. But what we do is we look at bigger time frames to say, well, what does it suggest it can go through it? So when I see all this congestion up here and the gap that we've already looked at and the sideways, I'd say, well, it stalls there, but it should be able to go through it. So trading is always about looking at multiple concepts, right? Multiple time frames, patterns, such and so on, coming to a bias about probabilities, and then you see what actually happens. Right? So this suggests to me it should be able to go through it. And if it does, as I said, it opens up the door to some kind of a move to the downside, which makes it pretty difficult to say where it would stop. Meaning, so you got some congestion there and there, but they're just little stops on the way up. So it's hard to say. So you just, you know, you have to be, I guess, either nimble or have the ability to determine what's happening in a lower time frame as to the reactions. And, you know, market internals will help to see if they're at extremes as they move down to help guide that. So Dow coming in a little bit, same pattern everywhere, right? The topping tail, now it's breaking. Sellers are picking up anticipation of a break below that low, and then to where lower, and we'll all find out in a little while. Russell rolling over there, and it's interesting. We don't talk about it too much, but interesting. The euro is all the way back down here. It made it look like it maybe could have a turnaround. So clearly, the euro is in trouble. The dollar is still going up, and you know, it's not a good sign. You know, as you think about is the British pound. What everybody knows what's going on in Europe there, and the slowing in the economy. And just remember that, with all of these gyrations and, the market turning around and negating the big down move and all that, things really haven't changed since what got it, the market's moving lower here, where, first of all, the wrong way option traders loading up on calls, the Fed chair coming out with a bleak picture with only a quarter point cut in rates, talking about the slowdown in Europe and how that was going to affect our manufacturing, this and that, and the China thing, and just the Mr. Schizo market with, oh, Trump, we're not going to put the full tariffs and the currency manipulation. So we're really into a crazy time here. So whatever your view is on what's happening, probably best to trade a little bit smaller, give it a little bit more room because of the gyrations, and we'll see how it all shakes out as we get into the latter part of this month. And, remember, September historically is the worst month of the year, and if this is what's setting up, as just that coming into happening again, September, October, the downside, well, the June low is at a minimum. Below that could be a pretty good route, but we'll see. We still have to see what's happening here. It's too early, but so as I said, we're in information gathering mode, and some positives going on here, as you can see. Well, more of these things turning negative as I'm speaking. But we'll see how it shakes out. So that's it from me, Dan. Gone a little early here, but you got some stuff here to cover. More interest. Markets are pretty quiet here this morning, but starting to roll.
All right, good morning. Yeah, we have a number of gappers here, but let's do our normal routine. Yeah, you know what? I'm seeing Neil's comment there. When we were over in Bimini, there's all these big yachts that are having Trump flags on them, and somebody said, "Oh, look at those Trump supporters over there. There's some of them here in the marina." My buddy says, "All boaters are Trump supporters because they're capitalists." I thought that was funny. Anyway. Weekly advisory. Only 2 positions. TLT. Gapping up here. I tightened the stop yesterday, and I said, let's try to get out on 2-cent bid. Gapping up here. So we'll just let that play out. Even if stopped out, it's going to be at a gain. Workday was it's ugly close yesterday. Gap engulfing. That pattern did not suggest that, particularly with a strong market. So I say he's on probation. That's But even though you heard me telling Greg yesterday, even with that nasty reversal, we still could have it closed pretty much break even. And that tells me that maybe there was some pending news, why the juice was so high. And maybe the news came out, well, I don't know if it came out yesterday. We'll just manage it. Hey, Debbie. Now the swing option trader. Yeah, market coming in here a little bit. So if you picked up that short where Greg mentioned, that was a fantastic entry. SJM, some of these discretionary stocks. Whoop, Greg, your mic. So we're long stock on this. Twitter, long stock. WDC. We actually legged into a covered call yesterday. Let me change the description. ZTS, we're long stock. MLM put spread. Campbell Soup, Big old target. It's gapping up. Very nice. We bought that little afternoon breakout right there. GIS, we have a bull call debit spread. So that's a mildly bullish directional option trade. SRC, we're long stock, and you can add over the high because now it's a 1, 2, 3. Big old price void on the monthly. We got a pig target on that. C block. We're long stock, and I wanted to leg into a covered call yesterday, but it's not optionable. And CDLX long stock, same, or one of these. They're mixing up the C's. Finally, Dish. If it closed, well, regardless of yesterday's close, you can add over yesterday's high. Because now with the little topping tail, it's a higher low. Big old, W bottom here with a price void. And that's it. That's all our opens. Crust was, it was a trade yesterday, well, over the weekend, but it gapped over the entry and it had an excessive 5-minute run, so I canceled it. Let's see this little pivot here at 55. That one's fine over 55. Elon, I think, is buying a company. Bearish gap down. Wow, that's bearish, yeah, but excessive. Oh, trader. All right, C block. Okay, cool. Then it's the other one that wasn't optionable. All right, I'll definitely be looking at that as an adjustment strategy. Dollar General, Greg mentioned it yesterday. Big old W bottom, bottoming tail. So over the high, that looks good. FN had earnings. Getting clocked, 46 bucks, way the heck down here. It's excessive though, I don't know what to do with it. Plab, another kind of, it's not a beautiful W, but it still had a lower low and then broke out. And I think that had earnings gapping up to 970, so nothing to do with that. Pin C gapping 4070. I don't like the way it trades here. This is one of those EKG bad hearts, but it's a bullish gap. It's a bullish gap. Keep an eye on that. I'll put him here. And that was on the earnings. TJX had earnings, gapping down to 50 bucks. That's a bearish gap, but it's right at this prior low on the weekly. But if it doesn't hold, that's a 30-minute low candidate. This looks like a little penny stock toy, gapping up to 4 bucks. If you liked it for whatever fundamental reasons, it's a nice monthly. Wide range igniting, 50% pullback, but I don't trade junk like that. Solly, 1230, maybe 30-minute high. Hilton, whatever, 31.25, it's an excessive gap. IQ 16, that's a bearish gap. That's a day trade short watch. I'm gonna put him here. SE 3165, gapping down here. Maybe 30-minute high, I don't know. SRPT, look at this monthly. It's gapping down to 100 bucks. Look at it, went vertical. This is what we call wild and whippy. We call this a stage 3 in the market atom. And now it's gapping here to 100. This thing, that's a big gap. But this monthly chart, right, I know, yeah. This monthly chart, it can fall to 60 to 80. Why not? So the only problem is with, it's gapping down 20 bucks, it's just not an ideal place to enter. But if you were trading the monthly chart, you need to stop, minimum over this bar, over 1.25. So that's a 25% stop loss. Makes no sense. Well, trader, same thing. We need a setup and you need a stop loss. That makes sense. MDT 108, that's earnings also. It's an excessive gap. But, all time frames look higher. IQ, we already saw. Baidu. In the Wall Street Journal, little snippet said, oh, they have their slowest growth in years. So your first impression would be, oh, they're going to get whacked today. Yeah, they're up $8.50. Home Depot, Debbie, that was one you were watching yesterday. That's a bullish pre-market, but there's absolutely zero swing pattern. But maybe for a day trade, that's a beautiful, beautiful pre-market setup. KSS, wow, this was positive. Look, it was at 51 bucks. Now turned red. FISV, this is one that was in the weekend letter that I also canceled because, see, the gap up and 5-minute high was excessive. But I'll keep an eye on that for an alternate entry. Oh, I somehow missed Echo Whiskey. We're long this stock. Cube, it's a REIT, but if it can get over the high, I'm going to watch it. Vinda, I liked yesterday's gap reversal. Crowd over yesterday's high, I mentioned a bunch of these in the letter last night. That's our long watch. We like this over the high. There's our Dollar General. FLT. I like this over the high. Beautiful 1, 2, 3 on the weekly. NDAC I posted as a long over yesterday's high. I like your Aqua still, and that's McGraw. McGraw, this is a bio, but your ALLK over yesterday's high if you were so inclined. Starbucks did not trigger, but it's still a long over yesterday's high. IIPR was a put spread, but I canceled it because it was too spready. And beyond here, 153.5. So see, it's okay. So it's gapping 50% into this wide range bar. I don't know what it's going to do. Let's keep an eye on it. I'm going to look at that covered call now on C block. Earnings, 1024, okay. All right, so under yesterday's low, 2169. All right, I'm just getting a C block. Okay, well, actually, hold off. I just noticed that it's trading there now, so let's give it a 5-minute low instead, and because the crazy spread, so just ignore that for now. On C block, just hold off. I'll come back to it in 5 minutes or so. All right, this pin C that was up, now it's gone, so it's just a non-issue now. You're gone. TJX, 30-minute low. I'm gonna put TJX here. All right, trader. Yeah, the bond, bond TLT will probably keep going up if the market falls, or vice versa. Whatever, whoever leads the other. IIPR. Yeah, I mentioned that as being a directional. The puts were way too illiquid. All right, here's my new alert on C block. Ooh, yeah, that's an ugly fall here. So no longs for me. That's a ugly 5-minute bar, or even it's 15. But my 5-minute bar is picking up steam. Yep, IWM is weak. That looks like a magnet now.